Nanalo ng Family Feud ng Team Ildefonso family ng 200,000 pesos.
Family Feud, 5:40 p.m.
Welcome to my episode that is called
Nagmamano pa.
That's okay.
January 20th, today. The Greenland fight is heating up, with Trump saying missing out on the Nobel Peace Prize means he's not bound to pursue peace. We hear from the man ICE officers dragged nearly naked into the snow in Minnesota. And spy base or diplomacy hub, China's mega embassy in London looks set to get the green light. This is Reuters World News, bringing you everything you need to know from the front lines in 10 minutes, 7 days a week. Trump is linking his bid to take over Greenland to his Nobel Peace Prize snub, saying because he didn't get the award, he no longer feels obliged to, quote, think purely of peace. He made the comments in a text to the Prime Minister of Norway. Reporter Nora Bulli in Oslo says that was in response to a message aimed at calming the Greenland rhetoric.
It kind of did the opposite. If you look at it, it also arrived very promptly. It wasn't half an hour between the two exchanges by the timestamps we'd seen. It went straight into sort of making a link between the non-giving of the Nobel Peace Prize, which is awarded by the Nobel Committee, which is based in Oslo, Norway, but is not affiliated to the Norwegian government. It's not the government who gives the prize or influences who receives the prize. I think it has come as a certain shock and surprise. Norway is very used to seeing the US as an ally they can trust.
Nora says Norway's Prime Minister has now changed his plans and will be going to Davos this week.
He wasn't originally scheduled to head to the World Economic Forum in Davos, but there was a message that he will be attending now on Wednesday and Thursday, which are also the days when the US president will be there. There was no direct link in the communication from the Prime Minister's office that this was the mere reason, but obviously, given the event, the day stands to reason that is a key reason behind going.
Trump has confirmed he's sent out more invitations for his Board of Peace initiative, aimed at resolving global conflicts. Russia's President Vladimir Putin has got one, and this is what Trump had to say when he heard French President Emmanuel Macron is planning to decline the invitation.
100% tariff on his wines and champagnes, and he'll join.
The heat over Greenland is rattling markets, which were closed yesterday for a holiday. Here's Amanda Cooper from our sister podcast, Morning Bid.
Hey, Kim. Well, US traders are coming back after a long weekend to find stock futures lower, treasuries under pressure, and the dollar falling against safe haven currencies, particularly as investors worry about whether Trump's tariff threats over Greenland are going to prompt a widespread push out of US markets again, as they did in April last year, albeit briefly.
Thanks, Amanda. You can catch Morning Bid wherever you get your podcasts.
Oh.
The Trump administration is appealing a federal ruling that restricts how U.S. immigration agents operate in Minneapolis, blocking them from arresting or tear-gassing peaceful demonstrators. It comes as outrage grows over the case we told you about yesterday of an older man in St. Paul who was dragged into the snow by ICE agents wearing only his underwear and a small blanket. The video was captured by Reuters journalist Maria Alejandra Cardona.
Then all of a sudden, I'm telling our security advisor, hey, that's another ICE vehicle. Oh, look, there's one behind us. And then all of a sudden, he tells me, agents are out. And it's like, grab our gear, get out of the car immediately and film.
Maria's footage went viral. She went back to the house to meet the man, Chong-Li Scott Tao, who goes by Scott, to get the full story.
So it seemed that his daughter-in-law was in the home with him. He was in his bedroom. He was on like a conference call with some friends. They were doing karaoke, and his grandson was in the living room sleeping. So right by the door, actually.
And daughter-in-law came to him and said, Dad, there's an ice out there. What? Yeah, there's ice out there.
Agents using a battering ram broke down the front door.
She grabs her son, and they run into his bedroom and they lock the bedroom door. And he says that they knocked, asking to, come out, and he unlocks the door.
And then suddenly there's a gun pointing at us.
And they're scared. They say, hey, you gotta come with us.
So I did, and suddenly they just handcuffed me.
Chong-Li Scott Tao is a naturalized US citizen who says he came to the US with his mother from Laos when he was 4. He says his daughter-in-law went to get his ID, but agents didn't want to wait.
They just took me out there with no clothes on.
So within this whole time, he felt like sheer embarrassment, fear, and just like humiliation.
The Department of Homeland Security says officers were investigating 2 convicted sex offenders at the address, and that a US citizen living there refused to be fingerprinted or be facially identified, so he was detained. Tao says agents drove him around for an hour, took his photos and fingerprints, then brought him home.
I'm thankful that
Kurdish-led Syrian Democratic Forces, or SDF. The truce is a dramatic shift, consolidating the 1-year-old rule of Syrian President Ahmed al-Sharaa, with his government now in almost full control of the country. Both sides have reported clashes since the ceasefire, and the Syrian army says a number of Islamic State militants have escaped from a prison under Kurdish control, accusing the SDF of releasing them. The developments put Washington in a tricky situation, given both the Kurds and Syria's new government have been allies. Syria Bureau Chief Maya Jabali explains.
The U.S. has had to essentially recalibrate its alliances in Syria over the past 15 months. The Kurds were their main ally. They helped them defeat the Islamic State over years of fighting in the north and east of the country. But since Sharaa's forces ousted Bashar al-Assad from power, Washington has been building increasingly close ties with him and his government. So a battle in which those 2 U.S. allies are being pitched against one another has been very complicated for the U.S. But overall, it does look like the Americans have sided just a little bit more closely with Sharaa than they have with the Kurds. And what we're hearing from Kurdish officials is the sense that the U.S. has abandoned them and that it did not intervene to stop this offensive in the ways that the Kurds were hoping it would.
Demonstrators turned out in London over the weekend, angry over the possible opening of a new, large Chinese embassy. The UK government is going ahead, despite concerns that it would pose a national security risk. Andrew McCaskill in London explains why.
This has been opposed by many politicians, both in Britain and the United States, who think this very large embassy could be used as a base for spying. It's also an example of how China is using its increased power to get what it wants. For example, Britain also wanted to rebuild its much, much smaller embassy in Beijing, but China has denied Britain the right to do so unless it's able to build this much bigger embassy.
And, Andrew says, it's put Britain's Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, in a difficult position.
On the one hand, Starmer's made improving ties with China one of his
main
foreign policy priorities. He's desperate for Chinese investment to meet his target to revive Britain's anemic economic growth. On the other hand, he's been told by lots of politicians that allowing China this very large embassy is going to leave Britain vulnerable for potentially decades to come.
And finally, all is not well at Brand Beckham. Brooklyn Peltz Beckham, the eldest son of David and Victoria Beckham, says he's cut ties with his family in a post on Instagram. He accuses his parents of years of control, public pressure, and media manipulation. David and Victoria have yet to publicly respond. And for today's recommended read, a look at the life of fashion designer Valentino, who's died aged 93.
Age 93.
Valentino Garavani, known to the world simply as Valentino, built a global fashion empire. His designs are described as graceful, sophisticated, and feminine, bringing a new color to the fashion world, which became known as Valentino Red. You can read more and see some of his creations by following the link in the description. For more on any of the stories from today, check out Reuters.com or the Reuters app. Don't forget to follow us on your favorite podcast player. If you're listening on a smart speaker, just ask for the latest news from Reuters 7 days a week. We'll be back tomorrow with our daily headline show.
Okay.
That's it for your news updates. To see more stories, open Google News.